have a conversation. Hey, yo, let's chop it up, man. Hey, yo, let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, may I interject? It's about time for communal reconnect. Power of the we in some type of context. Working on the us so we can hit up what's next. It's that grown brother, grown sister type of flex. More like soul check, not just collecting checks. Fact, not feelings is what we got on deck. Take the high road, so this here is high tech. Getting to the real, everything that we hitting on. Pull up or sit down, tell me what you sipping on. Reclaiming kinghood, that is what we getting on. Real headlines is what we spitting on. So, hey now, yo, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a sec to talk on what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. How about we break bread now and have a conversation? Hey now, yo, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a sec to talk on what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. How about we break bread now and have a conversation? Let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, let's have a conversation. Have a conversation. Have a conversation.
We are back. We are back. We are back. We are the Real Bravado Network, and this is Have the Conversation. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to just jump right in it. No long intros because we got one heck of a topic today. Hey, Flo, how you doing?
I'm good, TJ.
You doing good?
Yeah.
Okay. I had a question for you, but believe it or not, I forgot what it is already because I'm so focused on the topic today.
Let's get to it.
Oh, well, no, let me ask you. So, and be honest with me. Now, be honest. The black men that we have walking around today, you know what I mean? We're not talking about your grandfathers or your fathers, but the average, everyday black man out here. What is he worth? Does he hold any value?
To tell you the truth, TJ, is a give or take. You got a few that's worthy, but for the majority, we dealing with lost cause. You know, we dealing with a lost cause. The majority of them don't even wear their pants up their butt. Their pants is halfway down they legs. You know, I see it all the time. That alone for me is a no where you walk around with your underwear showing and your pants is down half of your legs. And a lot of them wear their pants is like that. So then and there, no dignity in how they in their appearance.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe some might like it, but I guarantee you most women like manly men, and that's not manly, you know, for me, you know, at least. So
I guess a better question, and I should have probably wrote the question down when I gave it to you. I hear everything you're saying. The better question is, what do you think about the quality of black men out here right now? 70, you know, the vast majority of our women are single. That's not for no reason.
That's that you got that right. You know, it's because
I got my opinions as to why. Well, I got I think several reasons behind that. But overwhelming majority of our black women are single, which means the overwhelming majority of our black men are single. So what do you think about the quality of man that's out here in general? What do you think about them?
I just think for the most part, the quality have got cut so short. You know, it got cut real short. You know, we just don't have the type of men that we used to have. So our attitude is gonna shift because as men, everything about men nowadays have shift. You know, so it throw you for a loop. You know, of we always feel leery when you meet a guy because you just never know no more what he's coming with, what he's about, what he wants, because everything is so far-fetched, you know. Like they say, believe none of what you hear and half of what you see.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to get your opinion on that before we really get headed into the topic today. I want everybody to understand something today. Let's see. Today it's going to be, I think, an interesting conversation because the subject that today is, well, first of all, you know what? Let's get into our Real Bravado headlines. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, our Real Bravado headlines is where we get into our topic. So let's just get rid of the Real Bravado headlines. Hold on. All right, y'all. So today's headline is son husbands. And how do we get there? Okay. Another term for it, another term that we're most familiar with is mama's boy, the mama's boy, and what he did. Now, I'm gonna walk us through a lot of things related to the son husband. But before we do that, to set us up a little bit, I normally just play like a clip of something or something that's related to the subject. This particular clip is from Kevin Samuels, and he's talking to a lady similarly on that line. So I always tell people, when you listen to Kevin Samuels, try to pretend you like his delivery and listen to what he's saying. Okay. So this is going to kind of get us set up. I'm going to play this. This is a 12-minute clip. So I know I'm going to be asking a lot for people to sit through this, but this is really going to help us set up what we talk about, especially when I get to the monologue. Okay. So if you just bear with me 1 minute, I'll get right to it. Flo, could you hear the clip?
Couldn't hear a thing.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. All right, hold on a second. Let me that is really, it's up on the, it's up. When we played our intro, could you hear the intro?
Yes.
Like you could hear that? Okay.
But couldn't hear him. Soon as he came in, couldn't hear a thing.
As soon as he hear, okay. All right, hold on a second, guys. Okay, I'm gonna try something. You guys sit tight. People, please bear with me. Like most people always says, we're building it while we're flying. So give me a second. Hold on.
Yes, technology too.
Flo, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so what I ended up doing, just to let everybody know, I actually popped into another system and to see if that would help out a little bit. So I popped into another system. So we'll see. Of course, all this is live and you can't edit it. So, so there was that, 5 seconds, 10 seconds of a glitch. So hold on a second, Flo. Let me see. Okay, let's see. Can you hear that?
Yes.
You can hear that? Can everybody down there hear that? Just nod. Yeah, thank you. All right.
My issue is, I think
First off,
that
how old are you? First off, how old are you?
I'm 35.
All right. Go ahead.
My issue, I agree with everything that you're saying. You're absolutely correct. But my issue is, a lot of you men do not hold each other accountable. Just like I know a lot of us.
Ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Are you about to ask me to have some balance?
No, I'm not asking you that.
Okay.
I absolutely.
Men have been held accountable. Men get held accountable for our actions since at the dawn of time.
You're right.
So please get on to the real issue.
That's my real issue, though. Like, I feel like a lot of us.
Who holds women accountable?
Men.
No, because if men held women accountable and you listen, men wouldn't be having the gripes and complaints they have.
You're right, but at the same time,
I know. Okay, let me ask. So here's a question: What do men say they want a woman's weight to be? They say they want them to be overweight, in shape, or fit. What?
I agree with all that. I think that we should all be in shape.
No, I said what? No. You want to split it into genders. Men want women who are fit, but yet in our community, 80% of the women are overweight and 80% of that are obese. No one holds women accountable for their weight. Women got children out of wedlock. Ma'am, that's a fact that you cannot get around. How many women on this show tonight have been 200 plus pounds?
Okay, but what man?
So who's holding women accountable?
I'm sorry, but who is going to get liposuction?
No. What the French toast? Liposuction is called push away from the table, drink water, eat vegetables, and exercise like a liposuction.
I know, but
no, ma'am, it's called exercise. It is called exercise.
You're absolutely
See
right.
What I mean?
Everything.
See what I mean? I said, who's going to hold women accountable? And who's going to go get liposuction? Wouldn't need liposuction if you didn't allow yourself to get 200 some odd pounds. Who's holding you accountable?
Right
exactly.
I agree with everything that you're saying, Kevin, but I think that men should. You guys are the leaders. You guys are the ones that.
Where's your husband?
I don't have one.
Then who's leading you?
I'm leading myself right
now. Then,
now.
Okay, listen. If we're the leaders, tell me the man in your life that you're following.
I'm following myself.
Exactly.
Ms. Thomas, go ahead and unmute for me.
Yes.
Was that a fair question for him to ask? He asked her, who was she leading? Hello?
I don't know if it was the conversation started out talking about who was holding men accountable and who holds women accountable, and the fact that he asked her where was her husband, because she started talking about being led by men or what have you. But as far as who she's leading, I don't know to say whether or not it was a fair question, but it is a question for us to even really begin to think about. Who are we leading? Who is watching us? We are being watched by so many that are following us. So I think the question of who are you leading, it could very well be a fair question depending on the circumstances.
No, she made the statement that men are the leaders. And he asks her, well, if men are the leaders, where's your husband? She goes, I don't have one. And then he goes, well, if you don't have a husband, who's leading you? And she said, myself. That's what I was asking him.
Was that a fair question for him to ask her who was leading her?
Correct.
I believe it was a fair question, based on what she said. When she said that, men were the leaders, and the fact that she doesn't have a husband. So who are you being led by if you consider men being the leaders?
And she said herself. Okay. All right. I just want to point that out. I didn't plan on stopping it, but I thought that was a interesting back and forth right there. I know it started off with him going off on his rant about weight and health and stuff like that, but we're getting into the crux of what this clip is about. Okay. Hold on a second.
Right. I think that was a fair question, TJ.
Okay.
I'm leading myself right
Then,
now.
okay, listen. If we're the leaders, tell me the man in your life that you're following.
I'm following myself.
Exactly. Like most women today, no one's leading, and you say we're the leaders. You're
Because
only
we are
listen.
leaders.
No, listen.
I'm leading. To
Listen.
be honest with you, Kevin.
No. You're not gonna talk over me, because I'm leading this show. You women come in here talking about men are the leaders, and you're not under anybody's goddamn leadership. Now, ma'am, you can unmute yourself, but you will not talk over me.
Sorry, my phone is dying. I didn't mean to mute you.
No, I muted you because you were talking over me, and that is unacceptable.
Absolutely.
Man, men are the leaders, but how can a man lead if women are not following?
You all right? You all right there, Miss Angela? Miss Angela, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Question. He asked the question, how can men lead if there are if our women are not following? And do you think that was a fair question?
Was it a fair question? What's fair? I don't know what's fair. But it needs to be addressed. He asked the question because it needs to be addressed. It's valid. If you have no one to teach you, how can you follow?
If you have no one to teach you, how can you follow? Absolutely. Okay. I'm gonna get back to it.
Can I speak?
Yes. You said you're not married. I said, who's leading you? You said you're leading yourself.
Yes. You're right, because I mean, you're right on saying the reason why I'm leading myself is because, honestly, let's be honest, most of us are leading ourselves. Like, we're leading our
You have any children?
Yes.
How many?
I have one.
Boy or girl?
I have a boy.
God bless. So you
Thank
think
you. Absolutely.
No. So I mean, so you think a woman who's not under the leadership of any man is capable and qualified of leading a boy into masculine manhood?
No, I absolutely think it's a hard job. Absolutely.
No, I asked you, is it okay? And the reason so many of our boys are so soft today is because so many women are like yourself, not under anyone's leadership. Why didn't you marry his father?
But do you think that was
Why
my
didn't you marry his
decision?
father? Yes, it's your problem. Yep, it's your problem.
No,
Why
it's my problem.
Why didn't you marry his father?
I didn't marry his father. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. That was my decision. I was younger at that time, and that's still not.
Why didn't you marry his father?
I didn't want him.
But you had a baby with him. See
when
what?
I had an abortion the first
I don't give
time,
it. No, man. No. Listen.
No, I'm gonna tell
This
you.
is the
You want the
no.
truth or not?
No. This is the problem. See, you're a woman outside of anybody's leadership. You didn't marry a father. You married. You had a baby before you had a wedding. That's already a problem. Then he wanted to marry you. You didn't want to marry him. And then you're trying to raise a boy. And then you're going to question why men are what they are. Because women like you make the very men you complain about.
Absolutely.
So don't ask me about why men aren't holding men accountable when this all starts with women like you.
Absolutely. I allowed it. I absolutely agree with that.
But your question came in, ma'am, asking why don't men do something? And men can't do anything with unruly women.
I get that, but I don't feel like I'm unruly though. I feel like
you're not under anybody's leadership. You're not
because
married.
of my decision though. Is that my
decision? I asked you why you did not marry his father. You said you did not want to. That's your decision. I listened very well, but you decided to do something and bring a boy child into this world, and he's not under a male leadership. You're not under any leadership, and you are going to likely create the same thing you were going to complain about at the beginning. And that's the problem. This is a cycle over and over again. How do you fix it? Get up under somebody's leadership. Submit. Stop being so masculine.
But I don't think that that's my problem. I don't have a problem.
Oh, really? Huh. So if I asked the right. So why didn't you marry his father again?
Okay. I didn't make the best decision.
Why didn't you marry his father again?
I never.
Why didn't you marry his father again?
Because I made a bad decision.
What does that mean?
That means that I wasn't going to have.
He wanted to marry you.
Yeah, he's still.
And you did not marry him.
No, I made a bad decision.
Right? No.
I did.
He wanted to marry you. He wanted to marry you. You did not want to marry him, but you decided to have a baby. See,
yes,
let me explain. Listen. No, listen. Listen.
Go ahead.
All right, everyone. I'm not going to play it all. I thought I was going to play it all. I thought I was going to play the whole thing, but I'm not. Question that just popped up. Go ahead, Miss Kimberly, and unmute yourself, and you too, Miss Lucas. Do our women, do they rather be wives or mothers?
Majority of them would like to just be mothers, because I've talked to some single women now. They don't want anybody to tell them what to do. I said, well, you will always be single because you have a little nasty attitude. I said, if you want a husband, you got to learn how to be quiet. You got to learn how to listen. You can't tell a man how to be a man, all this stuff. If you want a husband, you got to be quiet. Because some of these women, I'm going to tell him what to do. He ain't going to tell me what to do. I said, well, you're going to be single for the rest of your life then, because you need to learn how to be quiet. I wanted to say shut up, but, I was being nice. Because some women, they got the little attitude, and ain't nobody going to tell me anything. Well, you're going to be single because you don't know how to be quiet.
Yeah. Same question to you, Christy.
I think a lot of women don't know that is a viable option.
What's a viable option?
Marriage, being a wife.
Why not?
Because they see women are having babies via in vitro. A lot of women are single mothers. The vast majority in our community. And then you have young women coming up that they may not feel like they deserve to be a wife.
Interesting. All right, I'm going to get into the monologue. I just use this as a good setup for what we got to get into. Go ahead, Miss Fanny.
Yeah, most of the women that I know that ended up being single moms, they initially did want the whole thing. They wanted the marriage, they wanted the baby to go along with it. Um, but they compromised and ended up just having the baby. Either it was a situation where um the father said, "Oh, I want a baby, but I'm not ready for marriage right now."
Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
have a young
yeah,
lady that I work with. She's 34 and in a
yeah,
relationship with a guy, and he promised her marriage, but he wanted
right,
some babies, so she gave him the babies, and she can't find a marriage, no way, shape, form, or fashion. And I told her,
right,
I told the
right.
ladies, I said, listen, y'all got to learn how to make a deal. You know, I think
Yeah,
it's
leverage.
fine
Where's your
if you
leverage?
if you want that. If you fine, I give you all. I'm head over heels for you. I think you deserve to reproduce to the next generation, all that good stuff. But if you want me to do all that, City Hall is open.
Yeah,
It's open 8 to
right.
5.
Yeah, yeah. Some guys,
$45 and then
some of my
$200 for a
female friends
minister,
have
or
said
$75
things.
for the judge, huh?
Well, some of my female friends have said that their boyfriends have said things like, "Well, I can't really afford to get married right now," and this type of thing. But if you can't afford to get married, then you can't afford to support my child. Then
I would
that's
have,
plain and
I would
simple.
have told him to find
A
something.
child is
Right?
around what is it? A child is around
Yeah.
$270,000 now to raise a kid, and I mean, how much is a marriage license? Not very much. So yeah,
And so,
so
but
that's
that speaks to about leadership. Well, let me get into what I need to get into because this is interesting. Okay. All right. I'll be right back with you guys. Flo, I'm gonna keep you up. Okay. All right. So listen, there's nothing. Hold on a second. Yeah. There's nothing more triggering than talking about a guy's mother to his face, or a mother about her son to her face. Instant rage and fireworks, baseball bats, tire irons, swinging golf clubs. That's what happens when you start talking about a guy's mama to his face, or even a mama or a son to a mother's face. The vast majority of fights on the school ground back in the 80s through the 90s, so which
Mama
is when
jokes.
which is when I came through. Most of those fights were started from boys capping on each other with those "yo mama so blank 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 blank" jokes. Yo mama so fat she made Godzilla look like an action figure. Yo mama so stupid she got locked in a mattress store and slept on the floor. Yo mama so mean they don't even give her a Happy Meal at McDonald's. Yo mama so fat God said let there be light and he asked her to move out the way. I know they're corny. I know they're real corny. But there's nothing more dynamic than the mother-son bond. Sometimes the bond is so strong that it pits the mother against the father if the father's in the home. As we have stated over and over and over again, the percentages of Black children born to single-parent households, an overwhelming majority of which are headed by our women, have essentially skyrocketed over the last 50 years. This information is not news to Black people. It's not news to any other group of people in this country. This is so common that it's just assumed that every Black person's background starts with, I was raised by a single mom. But when somebody outside of us ask us that question or make the assumption that we were just raised in a single family household, we get pretty ticked off. We get downright offended, and we will get indignant with you. But here's the dirty little secret. They're not wrong for assuming it. The data makes them statistically correct. It also should be common knowledge that fatherlessness, meaning father's not in the home, creates an imbalance in the home, and it creates an imbalance in the parenting dynamic. It also leads to the lowest outcomes for the family and the children for the family that it produces. But with that being said, listen, what women understand women understand womanhood. Mothers know, they know what it's like to be a little girl, a teenager, a young adult woman. Women can connect with their daughters and, in a sense, often push them to heights that they've never reached because they understand what it takes. Despite their own successes or shortcomings, it's a personal connection. It's a very symbolic understanding that enables single mothers to actually raise their daughters to women. Women know how when and where to utilize and use discipline and praise to guide their daughters in the right direction. But when it comes to their boys, this gets a little tricky. Mothers do not have firsthand experience walking in the shoes of a man, particularly a black man. Even though our women can identify with black men, they have no idea what it's like to walk out into this world every day as one of us. But all too often, our single black women boast and brag about being mom and dad when they're the only parent in the house. In the clip that we just watched with Kevin Samuels, the woman was asked, did she have any idea what it's like to take a male child from boy to manhood? And her response was, it's hard work. Basically stating, oh, I can do it, but it's hard. But the correct answer should have been, no, I cannot. Roughly 9% of men have full home placement of their child. And you never hear a father talk about, I am dad and I am mom. That sounds crazy. If you heard a man saying that, you look at him like it's crazy. No man makes himself more feminine just because he's the primary parent. But way too often, overwhelmingly, our women label themselves as both parents. It has gotten so bad in Black America that our mothers even try to co-opt Father's Day for themselves, dishonoring every productive father out there. Now, while this world may be a cold place for men and women, the lives of young Black men can be especially challenging, dealing with everything from, especially Black boys, dealing with everything from, the criminal, archetype, the drug dealer stereotype, to the anticipation or the absolute expectation that, oh, there's another Black boy, he's going to fail. And the assumption that Black boys are not that smart. If you don't understand that, spend a little time in the schools and watch how they interact with our Black boys. Especially if they're a little bit rambunctious. And especially, I keep saying especially when they think that there's no father around, what they start to try to talk the mother into by their little rambunctious, high energy boys that they don't do with their white male counterparts. They got a script for your boys. When little Black girls go to schools, teachers don't necessarily expect them to fail right away, not in the same way that they do their little Black boys. And then our Black women out in society are not profiled by law enforcement in the same ways that their Black male counterparts are. Not that our Black women aren't profiled. Black men, we get pulled over, there's an inherent fear that our life is about to end. Which white America, when you talk to them about that, they think that that's an irrational fear. And you can't expect them to understand anything because they don't walk that walk. So they have a hard time understanding how their cousin or their best friend or their neighbor or their uncle on the police force can be out here terrorizing people the way that they do. And also, employers are way much more inclined to hire a Black woman over a Black man. If you start looking around big corporations and you look at human resources, especially if they do have a fair amount of Black men in the company, the human resources person is a Black woman. And these companies do that because they know that the Black woman knows how to keep her Black man in check, so to speak. The expectations that are placed on our little Black girls, we have a profound expectation, especially the mothers, for our little Black girls to achieve and matriculate very typically and on time. But for the boys, many mothers place a very different expectation on their boys. Not that they don't want their Black boys to achieve or want them to matriculate typically. It's not that they don't want to do that. But a lot of mothers, single Black mothers, place very little structure, very little discipline, and very little consequences on their Black boys, opting to just do everything for them and making excuses for their bad behaviors. A lot of our Black mothers think that they are providing discipline to their little Black sons simply because they might yell at them from time to time. Too many of our mothers coddle their sons throughout their lives, loving them as boys and not raising them to the best of their ability to seek manhood. A lot of our Black women are raising boys to be the very men that they complain about. I know this is like, for some, it's like I'm blaming you for the outcome of the boy, but let's be perfectly clear. For the last 50 years, the vast majority of our homes in Black America are headed by nothing but women. We are, including myself, we are the products of being raised by women, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. We are the products. And if there's a problem with the male product, it's a problem with, unfortunately, what he came from. And that's very hard for me to say because I was raised by a woman that I know sacrificed things that I would never be able to understand, and nor should I know about. But the fact remains, the job of raising boys cannot entirely be done by a woman by herself. I got a statement from a mom who has girls and boys. And she writes this. She goes, I've experienced some of what it's like to train up little girls versus boys and how mothers subconsciously rear and render their daughters differently. My two sons are the oldest. Daughter is the baby girl, and our household operates very much in a way one would expect, which is why I'm grateful to have a husband for the balance. Offsetting the discipline with praise and reward comes easier with my sons than my daughters. My expectation for all of them are high, but enforcing rules and maintaining consistency seems to come naturally with my daughter than it does my son. It is somehow more emotionally taxing to see my boys cry or get reprimanded. I can always come up with a reason to find an excuse for their poor behavior. That's what this is a statement from a woman who raised boys and girls. understand that the mama's boy inclination, it fosters irresponsibility, unaccountability, and laziness. It's what creates the imbalance in the home, minus dads, and ultimately stunts the development process of our Black boys. Now, the development of son husband is a big epidemic, and I think it's bigger than crack of the 1980s and 90s. But before we go any further, let's kind of define the term son husband. It's a male child of a woman who uses masculine benefits of her son for her own personal gain, instead of getting that from the man she's had the child with, or getting it from a man she can come into cooperation with. Women who tend to create son husbands tend to not be able to come into cooperation with the character-driven man. That sounds harsh. And I know it's not every woman. So I'm not making a all or nothing statement. A man's masculinity comes in the form of what we call the 4 Ps. And this lady named Crimson Cure, she came up with this with the 4 Ps, and I really like this. The 4 Ps for a man: provision means foresight, meaning the ability to look ahead, the ability to look around corners, the ability to solve problems before a problem becomes a problem. Provision. Number 2, problem solving. The ability to remove barriers, including changing the environment if necessary. Also, to make something secure and settled. That's problem solving. Protection. That goes without saying. It could be physical. And also, it's the ability to provide sound instruction. Now, you may be able to physically protect your woman, but if you give her directions about something that you don't think she should be doing, and she goes and does it anyway, she's still coming outside of that protection. And then the 4th P, procreation. That's to leave a legacy. So how is a son husband created? Well, there are 5 elements for a mother to turn a son into a son husband. Not all 5 of these elements needs to be there, but these are just some general elements that help create this whole notion of the son husband, okay? 1, mom fails to select an appropriate man to have the child with. Meaning she did not select a character-driven man to produce with. And I'm going to say this, and I said it last week and I said it again. Just because you may pick a character-driven man, that does not mean that things will be fine. Any relationship with any person is always a risk. You can only minimize your risk by making better sound decisions. But that doesn't mean that the risk isn't there.
Facts.
Okay? A lot of times our women will sit there and talk about, well, yeah, I could do that, but something still might go on. Yes, it may. Absolutely. But you've taken the necessary steps, you know what I mean, to try to reduce that by judging a man based on his character, and not if he's 6'1", chocolate, and sound like Barry White, but got the IQ of 2 marbles and a responsibility of a woodchuck. Actually, I think woodchucks might be a little bit more responsible.
Things that make you say,
So that's number 1. Number 2, not having your male child in an appropriate and safe environment. Sons tend to sympathize with their mothers and want to protect them, especially if they're raised exclusively in the home with their mothers. Sons assume the protection of the 4 Ps, which is not designed for mother. It's designed for his wife. You think about the NBA players and the NFL players. The 5 seconds after they sign their multi-million-dollar sign-on bonus in contract, what is the first thing that they do before they even do anything for themselves? Do you know, Flo? Huh?
They do something special for their mamas.
They buy their mama a house.
Something special for their mama.
She needs a house. She needs a car. I gotta get out that neighborhood. I gotta fund her 401k right away. My mama gotta be good. I'm not saying that you don't take care of your mother. I'm talking about in a traditional sense. Our job is to take care of our elders in their formative years. But in your development as a man, your job, your resources, your focus should be, the protection should be on the woman that you want to have your children with. Not worrying about your mama. And too many of our women have mismanaged their youth and their time. No, there's nothing you can do about it now, but our women that have done that, a lot of them are 45, 50 years old, still talking about having a hot girl summer. What the world, you know? You got 45, 50-year-old women out in the clubs with their 28, 30-year-old daughters, both still chasing men. Get out of town. So sons tend to be very, very, very protective of their mothers, and they grow up with this feeling of, I gotta do something, I gotta save my mom, I gotta get her out of this. And that takes away his ability to bond with another woman outside of that. How can another woman come in when he's already emotionally tied to his mother in the way he needs to be tied to his woman?
I guess the reason that they so attached, because when you grew up with mama doing everything for you, the loyalty just remains right there. I don't think I think it's more of a loyal thing when
it's inappropriate.
I don't know. Without mamas, who is you? So to just
and that's the problem with our way of thinking. Mamas are not the end all be all of black culture. And I was going to get to this next week. In black culture, mama's supposed to be everything. But to what end? I'm not sitting there saying that we don't respect and honor mother. But there comes a point where, good Lord, where your young men can't thrive outside of their mother's house. That is a problem.
That's because the women, you know, that mother, you know, she got to set boundaries. You know, it all comes.
Which brings me to number 3 on how you make a son husband. It's having inappropriate boundaries with your son, treating him like he's your friend, or giving him affirmations as if he's the man of the house, placing that role on him that that man is the head of the house. You the little man of the house. No, he's not. Any person in your house, I'll make this statement, as a woman, any male in your house that you have to provide for is not the man of your house. I don't care if it's your son, your cousin, your man. He is not the man of the house. If you are responsible for his roof,
definitely agree.
His financial resources,
yes,
his transportation, whatever. He's a child.
Yes.
Number 5. Do not provide plans, goals, deadlines, and structures, or discipline. Let me recap. 5 elements to turn a boy into a son husband. Number 1, and this is not in any particular order, just mother fails to select an appropriate man. 2, not having your son in an appropriate environment for him to develop. 3, not setting appropriate boundaries with your son. 4, putting any barriers in place that prevents or hinders him from being with or having access to his father. This includes getting ticked off because he has a new woman, or you just don't like him, or because he doesn't pay child support. None of those are good enough reasons to deprive. None of them. Or simply your selfish need to punish him just because you can, just because you can weaponize the court system. And 5, you do not provide plans, goals, deadlines, structures, or discipline. If your son, speaking of deadlines, if your son, and I know I'll get a lot of pushback for this, he's 22, 23, 24 years old. If he's living at home, you failed. 16, you should start preparing him for a life outside of your house. That is either college, military, or employment. 8 months to a year after he graduates from high school, he has to be out of your house. He does not progress. A male does not progress in his manhood in your house. It does not happen. We can tell ourselves whatever we want to tell ourselves about this. Oh, and I hear it all the time. He's only 23. He's only 24. Let me tell you something. Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, these men, Jesse Jackson, John Lewis, these are men in their 20s out there getting their head bust for our cause, our culture, and they had families and they were in their 20s and when they were out of their parents' house. So you telling me that, and you telling me, well, my son ain't this, and you don't know what your son gonna be until you get, well, I don't want to run overboard. You don't know. I'm gonna play a quick clip, and we're gonna be clip strong today. We're gonna be clip strong today. With this lady who has her son living in her house, and her husband's there.
He ain't going nowhere. That's my son. That's my only son.
At some point, he got to go.
Never no time.
At some point,
never no time. Never no time.
Well, tell me.
No, you tell me talking about you grown and you gotta go somewhere. I told him, you understand, you ain't going no damn way. You go when you get ready.
Man, I just feel at some point you need to make your own way. That's what I be want to walk through the house naked sometime, and there you go. So, I mean, what,
No, if anything, you can go now. How about that? How about that?
You don't tell me what why do I gotta be my mama's house? Like, why do I gotta leave my mama?
Period.
Man, damn near 40 years old. Damn near it's time to go. I mean, at what point?
I'm 29 now.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
40 years old. That's a bit much.
That's baby boy.
But think about it. When you pay attention to say the animal world.
Flo, hold on a second before you launch. Did any of y'all catch this woman said, this is her husband. He ain't got to go. You can go.
I heard it. Oh, yeah.
So my son ain't going nowhere.
I heard it.
Who paid the bills?
That's right, Angela.
That's right. I pay bills here. So she's letting her husband know he my man. She just killed her marriage.
Basically.
She killed her marriage.
But when you think about, even in the animal world, when those cubs, those male cubs become a certain age, they can't stick around because the male of the patch is gonna get rid of them. Either he gonna chase it off or he gonna kill them. So even if the animal world see it that way, to some degree, it have to apply to us too. You know, a cub cannot stay around. The females can, but the males, they almost send them off. You know, to fend for themselves. So to some degree, I strongly think that you spare the rod, you spoil that child, you know. So you
are living by a totally different creed.
What you say, Christy?
They are living by a totally different creed.
And to each his own, because in this whole world, we all are not the same. Everybody are gonna handle things accordingly to what works in their world. We are looking at it from our point of view and how we see things, but in this whole world,
the thing is, Miss Flo, their world bleeds into our world.
That's true too.
Mama used to say, if you go to the trash can, you're gonna come out with trash.
You ain't never lying.
You know, we talk about, you know, ain't no good men out here, ain't no men. But if you steady going to the garbage can looking for a man, that's what you're gonna get, a garbage man.
And those men that are being raised by those women, we somehow bump into them. So now we have to deal with those type of, we don't have to, but we bump into these men that these women are raising to leech upon their mom. Because once you allow your son to leech on you or live on you, when he meet a woman, what you think he gonna do? He gonna leech because that's what he's accustomed to do.
Okay,
so
Flo, I'm gonna go ahead and finish up because we still got a ways to go. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your initial thoughts on that. Just you talking about the boy was 29, but it don't matter. 29 is not a young, and we got to get over this stuff. Like somehow we're thinking 29 or 30 is somehow
not
young.
that old.
That's not young. That's
not at all. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
I remember when I was I was about 28, and I went out. Me and my buddies, we went out to a club, and I'm sitting around. I don't know what it was, about like midnight. I'm sitting around. I'm looking, and I'm looking at my buddies, and I'm looking around, and I leaned over to my buddy, and I said, "When did we become the old dudes in the club?" And I was 28.
Just like that.
Yeah.
And I was done. And that's when I went from clubs to lounges, blues, jazz, where you can sit down and eat, and there's, you know, adult. I was like, well, I guess I'm out of that life phase now. You know?
Quick.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, hold on. Okay. Our Black men have the highest rate of failure to launch. There was this movie, there was a movie built around the term failure to launch. You know, the ability for a man or who refuses to leave his parents' home and grow up. The premise is the mother and the father enable their son, making him dependent on them and their security and their stability, despite himself being gainfully employed. This was the movie I'm talking about. It's called Failure to Launch. Go watch it with Matthew McConaughey. And his parents set out on the journey to encourage him to find a woman that will grow him up. But why does a woman have to grow up a dude, you know? This is dad's job. When black boys fail to launch, it's the complete and utter destruction of his ability to do anything, including maintain gainful employment. He is programmed to depend completely on his single mother to house him, clothe him, feed him, provide instructions provide instructions on complex issues that he don't know how to deal with. Case in point, I've been around young men who depended on their mothers, who finally somehow get drug out of the house and they got to go apply for an apartment complex and they don't know how to fill out an apartment application. And they ain't got nothing to put on there because they've been living with their mama the whole time. So that should be a very short application.
Sad.
And don't have the ability to even do that. Have a car, but don't know how to get AAA. I mean, just really basic stuff. Oftentimes, our mothers will get in the way of her son's ability to become self-sufficient, and will describe her behaviors as love, or better yet, a mother's love. Often defending her practice of killing the man in him. No one loves like a mother. No, they don't. Keeping your sons in a state of failure to launch is not an act of love. It's an act of selfishness.
Selfishness, yes. Hey.
I'm not going to try to throw my grandmother under the bus. My grandmother loves me dearly. And I love her enough to not be a burden on her. I will not allow her to do that to me. If I'm short on rent or gas or whatever the case may be, or even food, I will go work another doggone job before I let this woman who done enough. Let me tell you something, and I'm getting off track a little bit. You can never repay what your parents do for you. And I've said this time and time again, the only thing you can do as an adult is not be a burden to your parents as an adult. That's the only thing you can do for them. But we have to convince our single moms it is okay to bounce him out of that house. He will be all right, or he won't, but it's his decision. Even despite if his father isn't around or is not in his orbit, you have to cut him loose so he can go about the business of finding his way as a man. He has to figure it out.
You know what, TJ? I got 2 boys, and just listening to you explain it the way you did shift the way I see things now a little bit, so hopefully it does this for many others.
I don't know.
I just didn't, I got sons, and I love my sons them dearly, and I always thought, to me, together we stand, divided we fall. If you can do it together, I never saw why not. But now just listening to your point of view, I see that it can more so hinder them more so than anything. But we're not thinking like that. We just thinking about
This is what I ask mothers. Have you ever failed? Yes. Have you ever hit your face on the ground? Yes. Have you recovered from that? Yes. Have you learned from that? Yes. Then why isn't that good enough for your boys? They need it more than you do. Our Black men that have failed to launch, these son husbands. And by the way, these son husbands are the one out here populating our culture.
Sure enough.
Our Black men who failed to launch, whenever they do decide to do it or try to do it, they are usually 10 to 15 years behind their white male counterparts. They're behind in emotional, psychological, and natural development. And you'll hear a lot of our mothers arguing the point. Everyone needs help sometimes. Absolutely. But not to the point where they're at 28, 37, 45, and they still in your house. What in the world? If he can always run back to his mommy, what is the incentive for him to find his own way? And these men, when they do look for women, they look for women who will do what their mothers do and are women, because sometimes I will never understand how a woman choose, but how you can talk about somebody who's corny in the square, but yet you'll go up and lay up with a bunch of dudes who can't buy you a pack of annihilators, and then you give them kids. And then it's later in life you want the square dude who's gone on about his purpose and built a little bit of something. Now you want him to come back and fix this. I'm using the term fix, but come back in here and then like he should be grateful to come in to Mr. Can't buy a pack of annihilators and his children. And he gets the pleasure. The son-husband parenting style is destructive to manhood. It destroys the whole notion of manhood. The development of the son-husband parenting tend to raise boys who display a complete lack of autonomy. When black boys are not faced with age-appropriate challenges during the different growth stages of their life, they miss out on opportunities to develop the confidence to stand on their own.
Ain't that the truth?
Personally, I left my home I was 19, just out of high school. When I left home, I went to college, away from home, away from my hometown. And guess what? I ain't been back since. I go back to visit. And those visits are usually short. I run in, take a look, and run back out. Ain't that right, Flo?
Yes, you do. In and out. Boy, like pop up like popcorn.
You know?
Yeah. Made some good points though, TJ. I must say so myself. Because hey, but you right. You right.
The boy these son husbands, they hold these unhealthy attachment to their mothers and the ease, and they have ease of living off of what mom provides.
Yes.
And they will often seek women who got characteristics like their mothers. And to a degree, these boys, these young men, or these men will actually prey on and focus on women with children.
Yes.
Because he know she needs at least another body in the house to help deal with her rambunctious boys.
Yeah.
He come over with a pizza, some Mountain Dew, and a kind word here and there. And next thing you know it, he's driving her car, dropping her off at work, and God knows what else.
You feel me?
And then she times up, and then she got a baby by him, and then he disappears because now he got to pay, like for real.
And he only disappeared because now he have a key to be able to come back whenever he feels like using that kid as a tool.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, if a mom is single, the son husband provides her with a man in the house who, by his nature and by his development, is prone to eat just to listen to her. She got a man in the house that she can tell what to do. Because she is the head of her house. In Black culture, women are the heads of family, men are not. Let's just keep it a buck.
Yeah. I strongly think because of the role moms play, that they sons just naturally play that role, whether we like it or not. You got some sons that grow up to really control their mothers and who you can and cannot date. They take
So
on.
here we go. We're about to launch into that. Okay?
Awesome.
Now with the son husband, the ones that won't leave the home, just like we saw in the video we just played, if a mother happens to finally run across a dude that she's finally going to accept into her world, into her house, into her life, and this boy's in this house, now she has a conflict.
Yes, sir.
That man, I don't care how much he loves you, that man wants that grown dude out of the house.
Yes.
And then here we go. You can leave, he can stay, which is
the reason why a lot of them are single now.
Let me let y'all in on something. Everybody here on this panel knows that I work in a hospital. I'm a respiratory therapist. Let me tell you something. I am with too many Black women who are in the hospital dying alone. No daughters are coming to see, no sons are coming to see, no husbands, boyfriends, splackavellis, whatever you want to call it. I want our women to just understand, you partnering up with you getting with the guy and going through life, especially the last stage of life with somebody, that's where it's at. Your son can't do that for you. When you're sick and you can't get well, that your son can't do that for you, nor should you want him to.
Yeah.
That was an older woman in that picture and an older man who married her butt with that joker, that 30-year-old senior citizen running around out talking about, well, I gotta leave my mama home. You know? Well, I gotta leave my mama house. And you 30. You almost old enough to have grandkids yourself. And that dude walks out. He walks out, that woman ain't getting nobody else. Sorry. The likelihood is very unlikely. It's not worth sacrificing somebody that you're, especially if you call yourself a Christian woman. You do not sacrifice your husband for your adult child. It's not like he's 7. You don't sacrifice that stability for him. I know that sounds awful to a lot of our Black women. They're like, what do you mean? I'm gonna sacrifice anything for my... No, you do not. The vast majority of Black moms will rather lose a decent caliber guy than let her son husband go. Here's how you know you got a son husband. Poor work ethic. First of all, he lives in a house. Poor work ethic. Low distress tolerance, meaning he can't handle pressure. Men are supposed to handle pressure. Pressure are made for shoulders, not hips. I keep saying that. Low levels of motivation, low levels of persistency, no motivation, not gives up easily. Have a high expectations for others to give him without having him to give back anything. Failure to take responsibility, lacks vision, meaning don't know how to plan for the future or envision a future. And have the severe lack of needs to even participate in adulthood. All right, y'all. Listen, I can go on and 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 on. And y'all don't know this about me, but I can't stand my voice and I don't like to watch myself on camera. So for me to take this much time to do that, you should understand how important this was for me. So I'm going to bring up the panel, fully bring up the panel for the remainder of the stream. And listen, I got 4 questions. Are Black women responsible for the quality of Black men out here? Why? Why not? Do our Black women prefer being, I asked at the beginning, being single moms over being married? Do you think Black women are proud of the men they are turning out of their homes? And is the biggest threat to Black man's manhood, is the biggest threat coming from inside of his own home? All right, y'all, let's bring up the panel. All right. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
I know I brought you guys on and off intermittently, but here's the question. The first question, are Black women responsible for the quality of men that are out here?
Yes. To some degree.
Some degree. Okay, Christy, go ahead. You first.
I say yes, because we're the ones that are raising the children. We're the ones that are raising. I'm sorry.
Oh, she was saying she couldn't hear.
Oh, can you hear me better? Can you hear me better?
Ms. Thomas?
So we're the ones that are raising the children.
Mm-hmm.
And when we turn those children out, they become adults, men. And those are the men that we are procreating with. Instead of raising our standards, we lower our standards to meet the men that are out here. So I think, yeah, a lot of it is on us rather than, raising our standards and keeping them there. Historically, that's what we've done. So, yeah, I think a lot of it can be attributed to Black women. However, mediocrity is a choice. It's always a choice. It's always a choice. You can choose to be mediocre, or you can choose to be great. So it's kind of 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. So there. And I'm done.
Miss Fanny, you got to unmute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think that it really goes back to what you said early on, TJ, was that where we women have gone wrong. Sorry if you hear my dog. Is we have not made good choices for our mates. That's really where it starts from. And so we have chosen, when we do that, when we choose somebody who's not ready to accept the responsibility of husband and father, then we turn ourselves into single moms. And then just like I can't remember who said it, we just naturally um, end up turning our son into that son husband because that man is not there. If we would give ourselves a chance in the first place to have a partner in the home while raising that child, that guy, he wouldn't turn in that guy, the son, he wouldn't turn into the son and husband, more than likely, because that father would be there helping to steer him. Yeah, filling in that gap. I mean, in Black women, they have a tendency to think, oh, I'm strong and I'm this and I'm that. I mean, I can handle it. And Black women are amazing, but I don't care how amazing, how intelligent, how many degrees you have, you still need a partner. And statistics clearly show that, to raise these kids. I mean, statistics shows that they do much better when there's a guy in the house.
And it almost take a village. So of course, a guy would at least take that, you know.
Right. You need at least a guy, you know,
Does
maybe some
take a village.
grandparents too.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have to get out of the habit of thinking I can do anything, including, you know, I'll just have these babies and just raise them on my own. We have to get out of that.
Yes. Yes.
And we have to allow these men, we have to allow the husbands to be husbands. We have to allow the fathers to be fathers, because if you don't, that's why the children don't like authority. That you, somebody trying to tell them something, it's like, who you talking to? Because a
Right.
lot of these mothers allow these boys to do whatever they want. So
Yes.
when authority comes, they're looking like, well, you know, my mom allowed me to do whatever I want. What are you talking about? You telling me to discipline? You telling me to pull up my pants? You know what I'm saying? You telling me to get myself together? They don't understand authority because you never allow that to be in the house. They don't know what that looks like or sounds like.
Miss Lucas, I'm glad you mentioned that because it just reminded me of something. I did not realize how terrible I was to male authority figures. I worked for the Urban League, and one of my first stable full-time jobs as an adult, I was working at the Urban League, and I had a black male boss. Well, at the Urban League, just about everybody's black, but and I just, every time this man, anytime I thought any slight disrespect I felt, I was going at this dude. I was responding in ways that, you know, now in the moment, I mean, looking back, I was like completely justified in going off, cussing them out. It's my employer. You know, I'm in my 20s. I'm going off. I'm arguing with this man. Like one day, we were in a conference room. We were talking about something about my work, and he was a hypercritical man. And one day, I mean, he just caught me. I don't know what day it was, but I was in the conference room, and there's only one way out of the conference room, by the way. So I walk into this is how, when you don't have the appropriate or not accustomed to dealing with male authority, how you really don't think things through. No disrespect to my grandmother, but there's a degree of, back then, how I interacted with men is how she interacted with me, you know, to a degree. I walked into this conference room. I walk in first. He walks in behind me, closes the door. I sit down. He's standing at the door, and he's going off on me about my work. He's very hypercritical about my work. And I got so frustrated. No, he was sitting down too. I got so frustrated, and I'm going to be blunt with you. I told this black, and he was like 6'2", told this black man to kiss my ass. That man, he hit.
And you didn't get fired?
Listen, he hit the table. I mean, it was a big, long, you know, conference room table that, you know, could fit about close to 20 people. He hit that table. That table shook. He stood up so fast, and in an instant, I realized I was trapped. Because there was no way out of there. And I said, in the look in this man's eyes, I said, oh no. Internally, I said that. I knew I had screwed up. I wasn't worried about the job at that moment. In that moment, I wasn't worried if I lost my job or nothing. I was worried about getting dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God for that man. His name is Alan Ferguson. Thank God for that man. He just gritted his teeth. He flung that door open, and he told me to go home. And then he brought me back the next day and talked about it. I apologized. Let me tell you something. you would think I would have learned my lesson then.
Mm.
I apologize for it. And that was, I'm talking about, regardless if I was right and he was just too hard and, you know, he was just being what he's being, just how I interacted with him, you know. And a few months later, I had a run-in with the CEO. I was working in the conference room, and then I had to go upstairs to get something. I had like a bunch of stuff everywhere in the conference room. I needed the room because I was actually getting ready to go to Chicago to do this thing in Chicago. And so I was just working, and I went upstairs on the second floor from my office to get something, and I came back and all my stuff was gone. And the administrative assistant to the CEO had came in and cleared everything out. By the way, he was a man too. He came in there, cleared everything out. I'm like, where's my stuff? You know what I mean? I had all these diagrams and everything. Oh, I was just furious. And then the guy who came in, his name is Emmett, came in. He was like, Steve wanted the conference room cleared. That's the CEO. I said, I don't give a damn what Steve wanted. You know, I was working. You know what I mean? I was so happy to do this because they didn't trust me to do anything because of my behaviors. You know what I mean? I was very excited to be working on this project. You know what I mean? And I was going to be in Chicago with lawyers and administrators and policymakers at the age of 24. This was exciting for me. So he goes back and tells Steve what I said. The CEO comes to the conference room and just goes off on me. And I just sit there and I looked at him and I said, I don't know who the hell you think you're talking to. I'm not some water. I said, I'm not some water bottle or cheaply made product that you can pick off the shelf at Walmart and do what you want to do with, buddy. This is the CEO of the company or the organization. You know, that conversation ended right then and there with a termination. And my prideful butt didn't care, went home, didn't care, didn't do nothing. 2 days later, there was a knock at my door. It was my supervisor. But he was out on vacation too, by the way. So I had no idea what had happened until he got back to work. So he knocks on my door, and then he kind of had a half grin on his face. And he's like, I can't even go vacation without you going off. You know what I mean? Without you doing it. He said, and we were business casual in there. He says, tomorrow morning, put on a suit, show up at 7:55, beg Steve for your job back. I said, I ain't doing that. I don't beg no man for nothing.
Oh my goodness. He was trying to help you.
Yes.
And he said to me, he looked around in my apartment. He just said, TJ, how you gonna pay your rent next month? You got a car payment sitting outside. How you gonna eat? Where you gonna go? He goes, quite frankly, don't bother me. But that's what I would do if I were you.
Gotta numb that pride.
And I said, well, Alan, I appreciate you coming over. I said, I didn't know you know where I live at. He goes, no, I got your number. I got your address from your file. He goes, but boy, he goes, man. So needless to say, throughout the night, something in me that made me dust off a suit, put on my suit, which we didn't wear suits in the office. I went there and threw myself on the mercy of the court, you know what I mean, with the CEO. and I had to sit there and get told about myself like I ain't never been told about myself before.
Or since.
You know, they ripped me up. One side didn't, and they both were in the room. And Steve, at the end of it, you know, he talked about, you know, that, you know, he talked about me being a black man and what I represent and stuff like that, and the lack of respect that I showed him as a black man, that I was his elder, that I had been, that he'd been down the road longer than I have, that he don't understand the fights. And the fact of the matter is the Urban League was situated in a city that only had 3% black population. No city has an Urban League that only has a 3% black population, but this he did. And he didn't, you don't understand the fight that we got to go to get funding. And for you to come and do what you did. And then he says to me, if you weren't gifted, and if we weren't the Urban League who believe in second chance, he goes, how can we be the Urban League where we do second chances to our community and we can't give them to our employees? He goes, and buddy, you passed your second chance about 2 years ago. And that was the last time that they had any issue out of me. But there was a consequence. For the next 4 years that I was there, every employee, my position grew, my responsibility grew, I grew a little bit in maturity. Every employee received raises, bonuses, except for me.
Wow.
They were afraid. I started working there at $11.75 an hour. 6 years later, when I ended up leaving there, I was making $11.75 an hour.
Wow. That was harsh punishment. Wow.
They could not, even though years had went by before any blow, they couldn't trust that them bringing me up to the levels. And back then, you know, $16, $17 an hour, we were talking about back in 2002, 2000, that was a lot of money. Yeah.
That's some good
Going
money.
up there, I didn't get it. Now, my grandmother had done a remarkable job, I believe, getting me to that point. But the one thing she couldn't do, which was the thing that she didn't have the ability to do, and that was teach me how to interact with other black men. And I don't consider myself nowhere near a son. My grandmother was very discipline oriented with me, very structured with me. So very, very different. But the one thing that she couldn't teach me was how to interact with a black man appropriately, especially a black man, not just a black man of authority, a black man who earned his authority. And those men did. And I had no regard for it, you know? But to this day, I'm extremely grateful for those dudes. It's a life lesson. And then one of the final things that they told me was like, TJ, listen, you're an emotional guy. When you on the job trying to get money, if people find out that you can be triggered easily, they will do it every time to keep you where they need to be kept. He goes, if I could give you any advice, it will be for you to fix that.
Awesome advice.
I ain't fixed it yet. I'm better, but better. But no, so I'm sorry I took up a lot of time, Miss Lucas, but to your point, you know what I mean? You know, we don't know how to interact with other men. We do not. And we interact, and I mentioned this before, a lot of look at the men around here that are, you know, the young men that find themselves in constant trouble with the law, find themselves they can't interact with, the only interaction they know how to do with another man is to fight.
Even if it's your dad, I seen sons and dads go at it just because they're in the household. You know, so it's not, it's just normal. Any man at all.
But that's normal. But that's normal. That's different. Believe it or not, that's different. I got a brother in the house with my father right now. You know,
they go at it,
man. but that's a difference. But my brother don't go out in this world and do that out in this world. There's a difference. You know, and of course the interaction with my father and my little brother, it's because it's familial. My brother don't interact with me like that. My brother understands that there's a consequence to being, I tell people all the time, the way you know you got a rooted man in your world, he's slow to violence. Men understand. If I have to get violent, this may end one or both of our lives. Rooted men understand that. Rooted men don't beef. They may get into arguments, but rooted men understand when it's time to stop arguing and just to move on.
Yep.
Yep.
And you can tell the difference. And when you got a whole 2.5 generations of son husbands out here with, and this is not with I would say we got 2 generations of boys out here or young men out here and men that have too much female imprinting. They can't help but to have it because that's all they have in the house. They argue. If you ever see some of these guys argue, they argue like women.
Right. Sure do.
Yeah.
What makes it dangerous? They got the emotional behaviors of the woman, but then they got all the rage and testosterone of a man. It is dangerous.
Very much so.
It is explosive.
It is.
Yes.
It's awful. I've seen it a lot.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's very difficult if you are in a relationship, like if you're dating someone like that, you know, that's just been raised by their
And
mom.
yes.
Naturally, you're going to get an argument. That's every couple does.
Yes.
It's just like, oh
But
man.
if that development has not been there, it is absolutely problematic. You know,
really.
You know, I could have went a whole lot of different ways with this topic on the son husband, and I wanted to be very mindful because I know when I get to Queen Mother, that will be not a nice topic, and I'm just accepting that at this point. Because
because what?
It's because it's gonna, we'll get there. I'm still working on that one. But this one wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. But the top of the sun, it is a problem. It's just as big of a problem as the 73% single mother rate in our culture.
Yes.
Because our women out here, you know, the statistic says 52 to 54% of Black men are single and childless. That does not equate for their emotional development. That does not equate for their fitness to lead. That doesn't factor that in. It's just, you know, basic data, you know, that we have a pool, and I have come around to the notion that if you are a man under 55, you should have a coach, not a mentor, but a coach that you pay for.
I've told my son that.
You need a coach that you pay for. And when we get to start talking about men stuff, a lot of the things I will start doing on the streams and promoting it and doing it myself, because, you know, you can't ask somebody to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. You need you don't know. We don't know. We don't know. And the other thing that we don't know how to do as Black men, we don't know we find it demoralizing to go ask to be mentored by another Black man. Because we look at another Black man as he's Black man. But I tell people all the time, there are levels of men out here. There are levels to this. There are levels to this. I told one lady that was interested in one time. I said, "Don't try to get me to compete with your dusty baby daddy who living at home with his mama. I don't compete with a sewer rat.
Mm.
And don't ask me to.
Burn. Woo-hoo. That was a low
I mean,
blow.
it's the truth. Don't ask me to sit up here and take and have to. If you're saying that I gotta compete with him for your attention, you can go have him. Because I don't do that. There are men out here who are on different levels than me. There's a difference.
That's just like the young lady that was talking about we got to compete for men. No, you I don't think you do. I really don't, because if a man like you,
when she talks about compete, Flo, what she talks about is being a kind of woman that caliber of man could have and feel comfortable with taking care of. There is that. I don't want to.
Competing don't get you that. You can compete and not win. So competing, if a man see you and he likes you, that's just what his preference is. It all boils down to preference. Because you compete, you gonna win the race, or you gonna win. You can compete all you want. That doesn't mean you gonna get what you want. So compete, no.
Can I say something? Can I say something?
Yes.
So a lot of times, Lady Flo, is women, single women, they do feel a sense of pressure and a sense of desperation, because in the Black community, I mean, we've had a man shortage for so long, and that's always in the back of their mind. Like where I live here in Atlanta, right outside of Atlanta, I mean, it's very common for women to share men. I mean, it's just insane.
Wow.
They're showing there's a sense of desperation, like they feel like they have to
compete. But in all reality, we really don't. Men are direct. Men like what they like, and it's just what it is. They preference gonna be their preference. You could be competing for men that don't even find you attractive, but you compete and you wasting time. Be chosen and not try to, just make yourself appealable for you to be chosen, but you don't have to compete with another woman.
Now, here's the thing, Flo, with that mindset. How many times I'm just being generic. There are women out here who've been chosen by appropriate men, and the women have decided for one reason or another to stick that brother in the friend zone, and that's who she should have got with. We always get our women nowadays date, select, and choose men how men date and select, choose women. It's backwards. It's absolutely backwards. I always bring this up. If our society, if our government decides to remove all of the safeguards from women and mothers, would you still pick the dude you picked to have a child with?
I think people.
I'm not talking about you in general. I'm not talking about Flo, but in general.
No. I just think in general, people just are. They like what they like, no matter how we slice it.
But that's because we live in a time. We live in a time now where the world is very comfortable for our ladies to have to do whatever they want to, because there is a safety net there. Back in the 1940s and 1950s, before there was Section 8, food stamps, title programs, our women didn't walk around talking about, hey, let me pick the guy with the best swag and the best zoot suit. Actually, those dudes were the ones out there trying to figure out, they're the ones out there hustling the most to try to find a woman, because most ladies understood if they laid up with that sucker, they couldn't get a cardboard box with that dude. And I tell women all the time, if you don't believe me, go find your family photo and go back 2 generations. Look at your very cute grandmother and auntie, and look at your gremlin-looking face grandfather and father-in-law.
We don't have to deal with that now, I guess.
But guess what? Back then, they picked productive men by character. They didn't go out there and say, "Oh, he's tall and pretty with the dreadlocks and dark skin," and then my favorite, he got potential. Remember, we had a whole thing about the potential. Pick no dude.
Shoebox full of potential.
Yeah. Anyways. So son husband thing. One more quick. Go ahead, Miss Kimberly.
You know what you're saying is very profound, because if you go back to that time, women didn't chase men.
No.
Men chase women. And so times have changed, because it was a thing to be chosen. That was the respectable thing, to be chosen by the man, not running down the man trying to choose the man. You know, and if we look at that, we see that they had standards, and even in their standards were nothing like the standards that we set today, but they were standards of quality. You know, basically looking at this man and saying, hey, if I do bear children for him, this is going to be some good stock. You know, my children are going to come from a good stock. They're going to be workers. They're going to be strong individuals. You know, they looked at the character of the man and not really the appearance of the man. So it was totally different back then. And we have gotten away from that, and that's why we are where we are now.
Yes, ma'am. We're not supposed to chase men. Men are supposed to choose.
And then Flo, if an appropriate man comes to you and you don't, if he chooses you and you don't say yes, she'll fall.
Let me tell you something.
Whether he's ugly or not, it's your fault.
Yep.
It don't got nothing. Okay, so because he choose me, I'm supposed to. No,
Flo, give me 1 second.
That way.
Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Miss Thomas.
Yes.
To your point. Also, back then, a dude just couldn't take you out.
No.
He had to come and ask your dad.
Parents.
You got to meet everybody. You got to meet my mama, my daddy, my brothers.
Yes.
You got to meet everybody, and everybody has to give you the stamp of approval.
And that's what I'm accustomed to. I'm not accustomed to competing or chasing no man. It's not set up that way. The Bible says it. A man shall leave his mother's womb. He shall find him a wife, and they shall become one. It don't say it the other way around.
But
I will not chase them.
How can that happen? Flo, how can that happen when the vast majority of our women, when they do get approached by appropriate men, they stick them in the friend zone?
And they say they don't want them because they don't look right.
That's because
they don't look right.
Not so much a look. Remember, you gonna connect or you're not. Not because he choose you. That doesn't mean as a woman you connect to that because he choose you. That's not fair to us to just choose, just to accept something because he chooses us. No, you gotta connect.
Even TD Jake said, "Who cares about being fair? It's about being practical." Miss Fanny.
So I think what TJ is trying to get across is, as women, especially when we are looking for the father of our children, we have to start training our minds and our hearts to be more practical minded, and not so focused on things that really don't matter, and we have to look at what will happen down the road versus what feels good right now. Like, he makes my toes curl, whatever, but is he going to be someone that is going to be a good companion? The second thing is that a lot of times, if the nerdy guy that at your job, if he approaches you, a lot of times because he's not cool or whatever, sometimes the woman won't even give him a chance. That is a mistake, because you have to give the guy some time. You have to give him a chance. It may or may not work out, but you never know. It may be the best thing that ever happened. I have a close relative that just married a really sweet, nerdy engineer guy, and they're very happy. So anyway.
That's what white women do. They don't care. They get Poindexter. We the only ones out here talking about. And let me tell you something. And I'll get you real quick, Christy. Let me tell you something. Our women talk about this stuff. Fanny, like, I need this guy to be some this, that, and the third. And then you look at their baby daddy. He look like a dirty gremlin who ain't had a bath since he was 7.
Nah, you low blow.
I'm just saying. Like, how do you open your mouth to say something like that? Let's use TJ. How do you gonna reject a TJ, but then you got Gizmo with 14 shades of gold tooth in his mouth who ain't had a bath in 15 years, and you talking about my baby daddy? You that's attractive? Get out of here.
And didn't your mom, Miss Flo, didn't your mom tell you everything that glitter ain't gold?
No, I don't care about glitter. I get that on my own. I like to connect. Yeah.
No,
it's all about connecting to me. If I don't vibe you and I don't connect with you, I don't care how much you like me. Because it ain't about, if I just deal with you because you like me, that means what about me? What about what I like and what I want? I don't see things that way. If I don't connect, I just don't connect.
See,
while
we having these conversations right here, especially about what's connecting with these men, the quality that's out here. We got too many, even though we got 54% of our men with single childers, whatever, we have way too many son husbands out here in our culture because that population of our men are dragging. I get labeled with them.
Yeah.
I get labeled with them. I get the assumptions that because of them. Well, I've had men who I don't give a damn what they did to you. I ain't do it.
Yeah.
I got one more thing.
On the flip side, some of us go through the same thing.
Yep. I got one more thing to play for you real quick, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Hold on.
To the mothers and to the sisters and to the grandmothers who are listening and ear hustling. Sons are not surrogate husbands, and your brother is not your man. Sons are potential providers, protectors, creators of legacy, and sons are the potential leaders of their own families in their own homes with their own wives. Sons are not born to only protect you, mothers. Sons are not born to only provide for you. Sons are not a replacement or a surrogate for adult male companionship. Sons were not born to only keep you company. Sons were not created to fulfill the emptiness of your voids or your loneliness. Sons were not created to only pay your bills. Sons were not born to remain 7 years old. And sons and little boys were not created to be the man of your house. Now, let's talk about emotional incest and enmeshment for a minute, which are both forms of psychological and emotional abuse that have been normalized in the households of Black families. Enmeshment, also known as emotional incest, is when a parent uses a child for emotional support in a way that is normal for a husband or a boyfriend. The parent typically takes an opposite sex child, which is usually a son, and elevates them to a romantic partner status, or uses the child as a substitute for an adult relationship. Enmeshment, ladies and mothers who are lurking and ear hustling, is a form of abusive parenting, and it confuses little boys about their role as sons. Ladies, sons are boys who will eventually evolve into men who are fathers, potential leaders, husbands, businessmen, entrepreneurs, and God willing, creators of legacy. And
any final thoughts? Oh, hold on a second. Yeah. All right.
It changed my concept.
What'd you say?
It changed my concept to a nice degree, so it just made me look at things different. So it was a pleasure to even be a part of this topic, because me as a single mom, all I see is me raising my kids, me. I don't see nobody else. So my mind frame just see me and my boys. Even though I raised my boys them to be men, because that's what I'm used to. I was raised by my dad, and I had 14 brothers. So for me, all I see is masculine when I'm raising men. I just see masculine. Boys supposed to be masculine. They're not supposed to be soft. And that's how I raise my boys. I don't know for other women,
But you know, real quick, masculinity has nothing to do with being hard or soft.
That's true too, but you know, men just supposed to be not as soft as women.
No, we're not supposed to be as emotional.
No, that's a better.
Must be more logic-based thinking. Must be more practical in our approaches. Sometimes we can be a little too practical in our approaches. That's why we need, and that's why you don't hear men talking about
to be balanced.
Yeah. And you don't hear men talking about I don't need no woman. You don't hear us saying that crap. Because we fundamentally understand we fundamentally understand what you are to us as a balance. We understand what that is. The fact of the matter is our group, our Black folk here, we're so far off kilter. And starting next week, and for the next 3 weeks, we're going to start digging into how we kind of got off kilter. You know, the next couple of weeks we're going to be dealing with that. We're going to be doing next week. We're going to start the Patrick Moynihan report. That's going to be for 2 weeks, and then we're going to do the stream on Queen Mother, which is basically going to take a really deep look at the feminist movement and entitlement programs and what that did to our Black women's mindset. So we got a couple tough ones coming up. Guys, this was fun. Got any final thoughts? Anybody else, Ms. Thomas?
I would like to say, I don't think as women we intend to, you know, treat our son like that. But when you have to be solely dependent upon, you just naturally develop that type of bond that we don't know, you know, but it's good to address these things because it sure opened up my mind to things that I wasn't seeing. You know?
And here's the thing, you don't do it to your daughters.
Oh, I'm the same way with my daughter. That's the thing. I don't play about when I was coming up, I was paranoid. Being a single parent with my daughter.
It's gonna be a little bit harder for you to assess that because your daughter is like an older and she didn't have any younger brothers in the house. But talk to people who got siblings where the boys and the girls are similar in age and the parents that think that they did the same. It's not. The boys are different. Mm-hmm. That's why when we talked about
I was more overprotective with my daughter because of her being a girl and the stuff that I used to see. I used to see older men trying to talk to her and I'll go crazy. I'll lose my cool. Like, you know, I'm going to jail. I used to be way more paranoid over my daughter than I am with my sons for some reason.
But just like I said, remember last week when we dealt with, like, when we were talking about the if mothers, you know, mother daughter friend or foe kind of thing, you know, as a male child, it was me and I was raised with my uncle. My uncle's a year older than me in the house with my grandmother's son, so it's just me and him for most of the time in the house. But I didn't get a chance to see any dynamic, but I did get to see. She's a watcher, she ain't gonna like me, but I did get to see. There was a difference with she would disagree with this. But there was a huge difference with her baby son and everybody else.
Wow.
There was a huge difference. So
That's
I think that's it, guys.
It is.
Go ahead. What'd you say, Franny?
I said that's generally the way it is in African American homes.
Yep.
Yeah. The son is treated differently than the girl.
Especially the baby son. Yeah. Let me tell you something real quick, and we're gonna get out of here. My grandfather, my dad's dad, you know, his youngest son. My grandfather is a old school throwback dude, but for some reason, my Uncle Brian, he got away with murder, and what I understood from my grandfather. I mean, and my grandfather was you listen to my dad and my other uncles talk about my grandfather. They respect the heck out of my grandfather as a man now because he gave every one of those boys a tangible skill that if they lost their job, they can always provide money. And my grandfather was very much a man of, he was not going to leave his family at all, no matter how hard or strict he was with his boys. But he gave them the freedom as they got along. But my Uncle Brian, this joker, and I love my Uncle Brian. That's my dude. But this joker, boy.
Let's have a conversation. conversation. Hey, yo, let's chop it up, man. Hey, yo, let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, may I interject? It's about time for communal reconnect. Power of the we in some type of context. Working on the us so we can hit up what's next. It's that grown brother, grown sister type of flex. More like soul check, not just collecting checks. Fact, not feelings is what we got on deck. Take the high road, so this here is high tech. Getting to the real, everything that we hitting on. Pull up or sit down, tell me what you sipping on. Reclaiming kinghood, that is what we getting on. Real headlines is what we spitting on. So, hey now, yo, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a sec to talk on what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. How about we break bread now and have a conversation? Hey now, yo, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a sec to talk on what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. How about we break bread now and have a conversation? Let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, let's have a conversation.